Alright, so we're at Gen Con here, and you can tell because you can see all the oh wait, no, sorry, these are video games. We got some PCs hooked up. You can play on keyboard, mouse. I don't know about joystick. You can have the game pads, I'm sure, as well. Kind of an odd thing to see. I talked about the apps and how that's a lot of money. There's a lot of good times being had on Steam or any of those other things, and this is further proof. We got a big old display, whole bunch of board games. We got one table and a whole bunch of computers. So yeah, kind of a weird thing. Definitely stands out amongst all the other wonderful board games on a table. Let me know what you think about that.
Thank you to my channel sponsor Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell.
Alright, so that was me at Gen Con, and I must say, this has been something that's been bothering me for a while. I wanted to make a video on it. If you recall, before Gen Con, I actually spoke about this a little bit when I talked about the future of the board game industry and how we are a niche market when it comes to how many of us there are, and that there are so many more people that aren't part of this yet, but will with the introduction of technology. Now, I know a lot of people might think that, oh, I'm overstretching things, or I'm thinking things too cynically, or something like that. But first of all, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against this, and I have nothing against explaining the industry to people that aren't into board games now, but might be with a little bit of assisted technology. I just know that with the good comes the bad as well, and that at the end of the day, businesses will eventually travel to where the money is, and that's not with super expensive physical products. It's just you can't beat the amount of technology and how you can send that to a bajillion people at the click of a button, right? I mean, that's the whole point. So when I went to Gen Con, I didn't know what to expect. It had been my first time there and my first time at any real big convention like that anyway, nonetheless for board games. And I was thoroughly impressed with all of the card games, the board games, the RPGs, the like fantasy art appreciation, the tabletop gaming, miniatures, all of that kind of stuff was there represented quite well. What I was surprised with is what you just saw at the intro here, and that wasn't it. That was 6 computers hooked up to video games at Gen Con and a big display with 2 board game tables. There was actually another one on the side I saw later on. So 2 board game tables, 6 computers. That was their display. So it's like, well, that's kind of weird. But if you mosey on down to the RPG section, you'll suddenly see a whole bunch of TVs and VR systems. There was a booth that had nothing but a Oculus where people were playing this right here, Tabletop Warriors. This is coming out in 2023, January 2nd, 2023. So fairly soon here. And what is it? Well, it's a video game that shows you the dice rolls instead of doing the dice rolls behind. I come from an age, and perhaps this will showing my age a little bit, where video games seemed to do 2 things. At first, they seemed to either mimic sports, or they seemed to especially push the boundaries when it came to taking tabletop RPGs like Dungeons & Dragons and putting that into video games. That's where BioWare got its start, and all these other wonderful RPGs of old are from that. And they would have stuff like stat rolling, and they would have dice mechanics that would happen just off the screen because you didn't have to show the dice, but the dice roll was there every time you swung your sword to see if you hit or not. It's why you would always miss. It's the dice, man, I'm telling you. What this is doing is putting it in front of you and then saying, hey, it's like a board game. It's like a tabletop game. Well, it's like any other video game that has anything to do with probability and chance. XCOM could be a board game if you word it that way. Or you have cards instead of that, but you're interacting with it digitally. There is 0 physical product here. And yet it's at Gen Con. So and literally they're within maybe 50 feet of each other. So I go from 6 computer games to seeing a VR thing to then seeing a whole bunch of TVs pretty much laid on their side. And these were like the boards that a lot of people that do RPGs will do, the tabletop RPGs, because it's essentially digital boards. You can have like waves crashing on a ship. You can change the map. You can interact with things. You can show a chest and open it. You can do all of these cool, awesome things. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just kind of interesting to see that push, see that continued push towards using and utilizing technological innovation for physical board games, either all the way with the VR or with the computer games, or enhancing it where you have your minis on there and stuff like that. But again, with that comes a continued push to continue to do, well, we could do this easier, and we could do this easier, because you can do everything easier in video games. It's just easier. It takes all of the bookkeeping away. It takes all of the finickiness away. I don't know how many times I look at an awesome board game, and you want to know what one of the most common comments I get on a board game channel with board game players? Well, how fiddly is it? Because at the end of the day, we don't want to mess with all the stuff. We want the cool mechanics. We want an engrossing story that matches all of our decisions, but we don't want to have to mark it all down. We don't want to have to, manage all the different dots, right? Take Darkest Dungeon. Darkest Dungeon, the video game, right? And it's awesome, and it's really cool how you can get blighted, and you can bleed, and you can have all these other things and be blind, and all these different dots and stuff like that, poison and whatnot. And then you take that and put it into a board game, and suddenly it's, I gotta stack all these tokens. You know what would be convenient is if they made a video game of that Darkest Dungeon board game where it just automatically did that for you. Wouldn't that be convenient? Wouldn't that be great? So one of the most common questions on Darkest Dungeon, the board game, is how fiddly is it? Why can't it just be streamlined like the video game? Why can't it just be great like the video game and easy to play? Well, these physical components and all messing around with that, it's something we push against at some point or another. Everybody has their limits, right? Some people can handle a little bit. Some people can handle a lot of fiddliness. Some people just don't care at all. They're madmen, but I'm sure they're out there. The point being that there is this constant drive, even from board gamers, even from us, as much as we don't like to admit it, to either simplifying our games or wanting more. I love like boss battlers, so Kingdom Death Monster, Alien Trespass Odyssey, Oathsworn, all of that kind of stuff. I dig it. I love it. It's really fun. I love the AI system and all that. But calling it an AI system is almost laughable when you compare the AI system of a boss battler to a true AI system in a video game. There's nothing even close to it. It just doesn't, you can't put enough heuristics in it to make it worthwhile without it being so cumbersome and so ridiculous. It's just not fun anymore. It's just bookkeeping at that point, right? So we think as board gamers, it's cool that, hey, I attacked it and it reacted, and we call that AI because of the simple, input-output kind of scenario there, right? But the push is there, right? And eventually we're going to have boss battlers like on the Teberu system with Bad Karmas, where the boss is actually virtual, where its AI is virtual, where it can interact and do more things. And again, not necessarily a bad thing, but interesting to see. So another thing I saw was just this kind of stuff. The alchemy was there too. And all they really had was some cards and a big old TV with this right here, all the digital stuff that you can do there. And when it comes to integrating and monetizing these games, this is kind of what I'm talking about. One of the things Alchemy does is it allows you to stream and watch creators and do all that. And what comes with that? Why did you see an ad on this video unless you're using ad blocker? In which case, shame on you. I need to get paid. But do you know what I'm saying? Like money is involved in all of that. It's almost never free. Whether it's a Twitch sub, whether it's a YouTube ad, whether it's banner ads or this or that or merch or whatever it is. All of that is being driven into these board games more and more and more. As more and more celebrities play Magic the Gathering or play D&D or stuff like that, big business notices. And so it was very interesting to me and a little disheartening to go to Gen Con, what I would think would be a sanctuary for board games, and see computer games and virtual reality games that are not board games at all. They might look like a board game digitally, but they are not. Right? There's no table. There's no friends gathered around that table to play your VR game. There's no even like solo play with the physical components, with nifty card mechanics or a nice dice mitigation mechanic or anything like that. At least not in the physical sense. So I would love your opinion on this. Should I feel kind of taken aback to see a whole bunch of computer games, VR games, TVs galore, and at Gen Con? Should I expect to see more of that as the years go on? Come 2024, 2025, 2026, how many more digital board games will be at Gen Con? When is it too much? Obviously, if you have a booth with nothing but a VR headset, apparently there's not really a limit when it comes to calling yourself a board game, being represented at Gen Con, and having a video game on display where I have to go to Steam to be able to see it. So yeah, would love your opinions on that. What do you think? Do you think I'm like way out in left field here? Or do you think maybe I should embrace it more? I'm fine with the benefits of it, and I will gladly accept benefits of a lot of it. But at the same time, I'm fully aware of the negatives, and I am fully expecting eventual map packs and item boosts and all sorts of other fun digital things we get to experience in our video games that once board games become more video game-like, we'll have that as well. Anyway, let me know in the comments below, and as always, have a great rest of your day. I'll be talking to you again very soon about the empty booths, because it's bad out there for board games. It really is. It's expensive, and companies are struggling. I've been covering that and kind of that what it was like beforehand and what it's like now. And again, going to Gen Con and seeing empty booths of companies that can't afford the plane ticket to come there is quite telling indeed. So I'll talk to you about that very soon. And then, of course, a lovely news video as well. Take care, guys.